Hello, welcome to Lecture 5, Part 2, Constructive Alignment. So this module is really all about putting everything together. We will focus on the performance goal number 2, but we'll look into teaching as a system, the way in which the article refers to it. We'll look briefly into constructive alignment because the idea is that you're doing the reading or you've done the reading, and then we'll look at desired learning outcomes, or some people call them intended learning outcomes, and then we'll go from there. So this should be a fairly quick lecture because I know a lot of you are working really hard on your midterm projects. Readings for this week, there's only one: Aligning Teaching and Assessing to Course Objectives by John Biggs. And so let's just jump right in. As you know, so I'm in, I didn't require the NEPF as a reading this week because I figured that you would, you already have read it or you've read through it, considering that we've had it for content reference for the last 4 weeks. So this is the page I'm referring to. This is page 31. And there are 5 strands or 5 standards for the teacher instructional practice standards and indicators. So this goal, remember, it's all about you and improving your practice as an educator, which is like a professional growth goal. And these are the standards that I refer to here in the PowerPoint. So standard 1, new learning is connected to prior learning and experience. Standard 2, learning tasks have high cognitive demand for diverse learners. Standard 3, students engage in meaning making through discourse and other strategies. Number 4, students engage in metacognitive activity to increase understanding of and responsibility for their own learning. And then number 5, assessment is integrated into instruction. So in this respect, assessment is not looked at as the end-all be-all, but it's integration of everything that you have as an educator within your practice day to day. The reading we're doing is this one here. So it's in the module, but if you didn't download it, this is what it actually looks like: Aligning Teaching and Assessing to Course Objectives. Now, I thought this was a pretty simple yet efficient way of summarizing some key essential things that we need to focus on. So let's see. The first point that they make is, or he makes, is that teaching is a system. And I thought interesting because it really is. It's like a body all by itself. Yes, your classroom is a part of the larger institute, but it really is a system, whether it's a good one or a bad one. So he says here, teaching and learning take place in a whole system, which embraces classroom, departmental, and institutional levels. A poor system is one in which the components are not integrated and are not tuned to support high-level learning. In such a system, only the academic students use higher order learning processes, meaning that you have a group of students who are doing well while you have a large percentage of the group of the students who are doing poorly. In a good system, however, all aspects of teaching and assessment are tuned to support high-level learning so that all students are encouraged to use higher order learning processes. This is done through a constructive alignment, and it is an approach to curriculum design that optimizes the conditions for quality learning, similar to Universal Design for Learning and the 5 dimensions of Biggs multicultural education layout. And also, I would say cooperative learning does that to a certain extent, but maybe not as aligned to standards-based. But the point is that everyone is at a high level of achievement. Constructive alignment has 2 aspects, just like the reading says. The constructive aspect refers to the idea that students construct meaning through relevant learning activities. So if you are one that believes in cooperative learning, you probably do have a constructivist pedagogy or pedagogical viewpoint where you see the learning process as one that embodies both the students and the teachers engaging in the creation of the learning process. So this is the base for this alignment or this aligned curriculum that then upholds the standards and also your goals while integrating all the things that students need in a well-balanced way. So it says here that meaning is not something imparted or transmitted from teacher to learner, but it's something learners have to create for themselves. And then the key here is that the components in the teaching system, especially the teaching methods used in the assessment tasks, are aligned to the learning activities assumed and the intended outcomes. So here's where the your intentionality behind your professional goals and the student learning goals start to play an important role, because you have those as your base. You start there and then you start to build your year from backwards to the beginning. And there should be an alignment in a way that defines the learning outcomes. You can understand and choose the teaching and learning activities likely to lead to those desired learning outcomes. And then you are able to know what you're assessing in regards to what students are actually learning. And then match that with what was the intention. So their outcomes should match your desired learning outcomes in objective form, and they should be able to relate to your performance goals and also the student learning outcome goals in a way that results in a final grade that reflects everything that they were supposed to do. And that does take a little bit of skill, because sometimes what you think that you've asked them to do is not actually what they understood, and then it comes into a situation where what you're assessing, what your goal was, and what they're learning are misaligned. So this model kind of puts things together. Defining the DLOs to really understand something, you see the world differently and behave differently towards that part of the world. So in other words, in setting objectives, there are 3 points that you need to be sure to infuse into your alignment of all these factors mixed in together. The criteria and hence the assessment must be authentic, which we all know, to the discipline. Transformed verbal retelling is not often authentic. Okay, that was a good example. 2, to really understand a topic, concept, or principle changes the way one behaves in the topic area. So you need to have a full grasp, and students need to have a full grasp of that topic area, allowing them time to explore within the topics, and also expand their knowledge may be a good way of increasing their topical or their topic area knowledge. And then 3, teachers need to specify such performances of understanding for the material they are teaching. So I think this is a big one. Oftentimes we do not tell students, what does it mean to actually show me that you understand something? So when they go to complete a task, the performance aspect of it, or the way they're showing you how they know the knowledge, is a mystery to them. So they end up not performing to what the standards are because it's not indicated to them. For example, people say oftentimes, I will be able to understand this paragraph. Well, what am I doing to show you that I understand it? That's why the SMART goals are so important, because they put the how, the what, the when, and the why into every aspect of the teaching process, which is super important for students. So here is I took a picture of this from the article, but it's the hierarchy of verbs that may be used to form curriculum objectives. And I thought this was pretty cool because it shows how it's being measured and how you should be choosing your activities. So hopefully you can kind of get this at the bottom. It starts with Mrs. Point. The one bar there, identify, do simple procedures. So it's like the Bloom's taxonomy for curriculum objectives, but it shows you the phase of what should be happening. So by the end, there should be theorizing going on, generalizing, hypothesizing, and then reflecting, which is obviously the highest level of thinking. Okay, so this kind of wraps up things. I'm really glad I'm ending on time for this lecture, but assessing students' learning outcomes. So this is the way it works. So remember that they will learn what they think they will be assessed on, not what is in the curriculum or even on what has been covered in class. The trick is then to make sure the assessment tasks mirror the desired learning outcomes. So from the teacher's perspective, you enter the classroom from here. You have your objectives, you have your desired learning outcomes or the intended learning outcomes, you have the teaching activities, and then you design the assessment. For the student, they come in at the assessment part and the learning activities and then the outcomes. So it's a circle, it's a full 360 process, but the problem is where if the assessment does not align with the learning activities or your objectives, then the outcomes won't match. So the arrows are intended to go straight forward because everyone enters differently except for where we create the objectives, the students have their assessments, or they have their learning activities that then create a result to their outcomes. So here is very important to remember and consider that everything has to align. When it doesn't align, learning doesn't take place in the way in which it should for everyone. Some students will be able to figure it out because that's their learning style, but a lot of times they often get lost in the shuffle because we haven't done the aligning part as well, or firsthand for ourselves. So the key thing here is that constructive alignment is a more in-depth manner of aligning both professional and student learning goals, as it provides a systematic approach to developing aligned content and teaching approaches. And this short video, is about 2 minutes, gives you a really quick overview of what constructive alignment actually means. I wanted to give you a brief one this week because I know you're working really hard. But all in all, just keep in mind that from the reading, hopefully you gather a lot of information. This is a tedious process. It does require a lot on your part to front load, but once you do the heavy lifting at the beginning, you will see awesome results as the year progresses because the alignment is there. So as you adjust and adapt, you'll know what happened and why it happened, and then where you need to go back and readjust the alignment. So it does work regardless of the manner that you choose to align with. The key thing is that you put the effort in while you have the chance before the students actually get into the learning environment. That concludes this week. Sorry I went 2 minutes over. But if you have any questions while you're completing your midterm, please let me know. Also, if you have any questions about this content, feel free to email me at your convenience. Have a great day.